to The Family Skeptical, Parenting Through Nonbelief.
We're a married atheist couple raising two wonderful, strange children. We ask big questions, dissect weird parenting moments, and examine how society ignores or misrepresents families like ours. If you're any stripe of non-believer who is involved in raising children, welcome. You are our people.
Our kids have heard all our swears, but yours might not have. So be thoughtful if there are young people listening with you. Pops.
The humanist in me wants to do a deep dive into Gavin Newsom's speech or whatever interview at Davos. But that might have to wait for later.
Yeah. We have an interview coming up, and it made me think of something because at some point in the upcoming interview, you all will hear Pops grumble, YouTube shorts. And I wanted to bring it up because that was recorded before something else that happened. So I would say we are pretty lax about monitoring screen time.
To be fair, the kiddos have proven that we can generally trust them.
Yeah.
They don't seek out horrible content. They don't troll us. You know, if an algorithm leads them astray, they are okay with not watching the stuff that we see as objectionable. Yes, we could probably do better about hovering over them like helicopter parents, monitoring all of the things they do. But this is, it's 2026 and our kids are good people. And I don't know, I feel inclined to trust and admire their ability to pivot, to accept criticism, and to see the truth of needing to protect their brains.
Well, yes. So we haven't put many limits on. And that has been the main reason why. And then I was sitting on the couch with Reader one day doing something. And they were on their iPad. And both of the kids are pretty into YouTube shorts. And I don't know if you all have heard YouTube shorts, but is it just like pulling things from TikTok? I don't even understand where those videos come from.
They get made specifically as shorts, or creators clip longer videos to draw eyes to their channel. Like, there's a number of ways that people would create and implement shorts. But bottom line, like, I saw a study that was done about the damage that can happen to a kid's cognition, especially children where their brains are still growing, from that short form content. That's a constant dopamine hit. It's just scattered.
And so it is hard to explain just how gnawing these videos are. Like,
yeah.
It's little bursts, and then they'll also do this thing where they'll like speed up the voices in them to fit them into the short format. And it's always like talking about one thing over images of something else. I mean, it is.
It's like somebody is frying an egg and the screen is split between the person frying an egg and then talking about their divorce or so. It's just weird postmodern late stage capitalism stuff.
It's very weird. So I
feel very old talking about it this way because I'm sure that like our kids are not alone and that plenty of young people like digest and consume this nonsense.
Oh yeah. But so I was sitting on the couch and it was just starting to like gnaw into my consciousness.
Oh no.
And I was like, I can't, like, what is this noise? And then I was like listening to a couple of the videos. And so it would be like an image of somebody like cutting a sponge in half. And then a couple of the like speeded up voices were talking about kids' memories of being abused. And it wasn't super graphic. Like it was not graphic, but it was like, then I knew something was wrong. And so at that point, I had a short conversation with Reader and just asked, like, is that what those videos were about? And they said yes. And I said, and I just let them know at that point that, like, obviously it's important to know that child abuse happens, but that I wasn't sure if I felt super comfortable with, like, that being the best medium for it.
Oh, I don't. I think it's 100%
and
hard pass.
I just had to think about it. And then there was the
And I think I saw like this was happening in like our family zeitgeist, because I, apropos of not this, was exposed to the study or whatever, like the medical survey about.
Okay.
It was not related. It wasn't like this happened and then I sought out the information. This bubbled up in my life independently of you experiencing that with Reader.
Amazing. And then there was the terrible murder of Renee Good. And it just occurred to me that, like, they are online and in a longer video, if they're watching like a YouTube channel, it is, because that footage was everywhere, right?
Right.
And I talked to the kids about it and I let them know that, like, it's really good that the footage exists because it lets us see that the government is lying about what happened, but that I didn't think they needed to watch that. And if, like, if they knew that that was coming up, they should not watch it and they should move away from it because we needed the information, but they do not need to see somebody actually killed. And I just couldn't get it out of my head because I'm like, if it's a longer video, it's much more likely that somebody's going to set up what's coming up.
Right.
Where they can move away from it. With the short form, it can just like pop up. Right. And so I just couldn't stop thinking about it. And we talked about it. And so we've like nixed YouTube shorts in the house. And I just have to say, I am so proud of the kids.
Yeah, because they were watching them a lot.
Yeah.
And now they're proud of watching longer stuff. And it's interesting how their interests have bubbled up again. Like they want to both help in the kitchen more because they're watching like cooking videos more often. It's really cool. So
yeah. And that first morning after we made the rule, I came down and Reader was watching shorts and I was just like, hey, I know it's hard to remember, just a heads up. We're not, switch to something long form. And they were like, yeah, thanks. Thanks for the reminder. And since then, I mean, Reader is in their room. So there's like a chance that we're just like missing it. But I think for the most part.
Should put an app tracker on their iPad.
Well, in their room, it's on their computer. So anyways, but I think for the most part, they've sort of been on board. And I don't know if it's really helping, but I certainly feel a lot less nervous about things. So I don't know. I just wanted to bring it up because it's like we haven't like changed the amount of screen time at all. But I feel like this change in the type of screen time, I don't know. I think it's like good.
I think it's good.
And they've been watching a bit more anime.
All good things.
Okay, so on to the interview. We had the pleasure of speaking with Sarah Tulien, who's executive director of the Creator Accountability Network. And usually I would like set that up a lot more, but she does a great job of it in the interview. So we're just going to go listen to that. Okay, so Sarah, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on.
So if people have been listening to us for a while, when we were first getting credentialed with CAN, we did a big spiel about everything that you do and how awesome you are. But we might have listeners who weren't around when that happened. So could you talk a little bit about what, and I should say, CAN is the Creator Accountability Network. So can you talk a little bit about what CAN does and its mission?
Yeah. So the Creator Accountability Network prevents and addresses harm through a restorative system of accountability. Our goal is to support safer and healthier community dynamics. We have a variety of different ways that we do that because we are trying to, stop bad things from happening in the first place, but then sometimes they do. So we have to have a very different system to address things.
So I know we hope bad things never happen, and this is hopefully prevents it. But can you kind of talk about like the kind of situations you're trying to prevent?
Mm-hmm. We started out, because we're the Creator Accountability Network, we were addressing content creators who we saw as people who have platforms, audiences, communities, and frequently places where those communities gather, whether that's online spaces or in-person spaces. And anytime that you have somebody who is at the top of the community, let's say a leader in the community around whom that community gathers, there are power dynamics at play that make it surprisingly easy to cause harm on a much larger scale than is intended. So you would see, people rocket to stardom or have suddenly a very large following in a very short amount of time and not really know quite how to handle that. You've got people who are really seeking to connect with you, people who listen to you a lot and feel like they know you very well and develop a lot of parasocial relationships. And it's difficult not to form friendships and not to form other kinds of relationships. And in those kinds of spaces, it's easy for those to go sideways as well, to, be saying inappropriate things or doing unintentionally harmful things. That behavior can cause damage to the community, and it can spread, it can grow, it can get bigger over time, and those behaviors can get worse over time.
Mm.
And I can imagine when that happens, like, since the creator runs the community, there's sort of nobody to reach out to do anything about it.
Yeah. People who are trying to get things addressed might try to reach out directly to a creator who may or may not react well. A lot of us don't react perfectly when we're being given negative feedback or criticism or told, like, hey, something you did was wrong. So it is very common to see defensive reactions, very common to see kind of a doubling down on, no, my behavior was fine. Especially when you feel you are in the limelight and everyone is looking at you, it's quite difficult to take feedback and say, you're right, I did cause harm, I could have done that better. It is much, much easier to just deflect, deny. It's natural. It happens to people by nature.
For sure. And so how does CAN help?
So our goal, is to prevent harm in the first place. And we do that through a system of education and training. So any content creators who want to be credentialed with us take 2 trainings. One is on ethical content creation, and one is on harassment and abuse prevention and bystander intervention. And those go over in depth consent as a spectrum, understanding power dynamics, understanding parasocial dynamics. We have our content creators go through some, scenarios and some thought exercises to really put in their heads an understanding of what our code of conduct expects of people, where there are gray areas and how to navigate them, and the fact that no one is perfect. And if you misstep, there are also ways to help, ways to do better, ways that we can help.
And does CAN do anything for community members who might feel like they experienced harm?
We do. So on the other side, where, harm has happened, we have a reporting system. And our reporting system consists of a hotline or an online form that somebody can fill out. And they can reach a victim advocate who can help them, if they need in-person resources if they need to find a crisis center, if they need help finding a local advocate. There's a lot of things that our advocates can do, but they'll help them make that report and understand what our process is. And if that person chooses to go forward with that process, it's with informed consent. So they understand CAN is here to take that report. We will investigate it, which means getting all sides of the story. We will process it through our ethics department. And then we have our mediations team sit down with our content creator. And if they choose, the person who made the report can also be a part of this process, but facilitate a conversation with that content creator. Here was the situation that was reported. Here was the impact that it had on that person. Kind of help them process and receive that feedback, and then help them identify what needs to change in my behavior, or what are some restorative actions that I could take that could help this person feel less harmed. Can I reduce the impact that this person experienced? If the goal is healthier and safer community dynamics, we want to keep the community whole as much as possible, as opposed to having communities of people that fracture and fall apart and disappear. So helping the person who was harmed feel safe and wanted and cared about so that they stay within the community, and the person who did the harm stepping up and showing the community, I care so much about not having this impact again. And here are the steps that I'm going to take to make sure that that does not happen.
I think the restorative model is kind of the thing that I was most drawn into once I learned about CAN. And I had heard about it before, but not in such detail. Mm-hmm. And so I wonder if you can speak a little bit to, how you chose to use that model, and maybe give some examples of what a restorative model might look like if people are still having an issue kind of understanding what that might mean. Because I feel like it is not the model that most people use in dealing with conflict.
We're used to hearing, the perpetrator had the hammer dropped on them, or they got away scot-clean, or they put on a MAGA hat like Russell Brand, or whatever it is. Like we just hear about everything other than, everybody wins and the community is strengthened as a result. That's such a rarity.
Yeah. So I definitely see more than anything in the public sphere where we're having these conversations, we're so limited in what the potential outcomes can be. If somebody comes forward in a public space and they say, hey, this creator did X, Y, and Z, the audience members have limited access to information. They might process through what they've been told and come down on one side or the other. Either, okay, I got to cancel this person, or, I think this victim is flawed in some way. And there's where your community starts to schism. They either go after the person who made the report and is talking about it in public, and you see a lot of victim blaming. You see a lot of, poking holes, or was it really that bad, or kind of downplaying the harm. Are we really going to cancel this person over this? Lots of that. And that's re-traumatizing to somebody who is trying to bring forward a problem, an issue to be understood. And then you've got people who turn around and are going to attack the other side. They're going to, okay, we got to cancel this person, believe victims. And then quite often, your content creator has to respond. So they'll bring back their side of the story. Litigating things in the court of public opinion is so challenging. Anytime you bring in that other side of the story, quite often you've already lost part of that audience. They've only heard one side and they've left. Everybody who is remaining is going to have to process that information in a very different way. And there's a huge backlash towards the other person. And it's very confrontational, combative, and divisive. And, we've watched this happen time and time again, where the communities schism. And if you think about it, an audience of people for whom everybody who originally cared about the experience of the person harmed leaves, you're left with the people who didn't care about the harm that was caused and are a little bit more likely to sweep things under the rug. Your audience makeup has now changed. That community makeup has now changed. And it's a part of the process of how people move to the right, I believe, is my personal opinion, that their audience starts to change. And it starts to push them further to the right because those are the people who are supporting them. Those are the people who are more likely to say, oh, that's not that big a deal, sweep that under the rug and excuse a little bit more bad behavior.
I hadn't even thought about that.
So
totally.
That's I feel like where we started out was we saw that cycle happen over and over again. A restorative justice model is a little different. It does take the needs of both parties into account. It gets a little criticism because it is sometimes offender-centric. It takes the needs of the offender into account. It means sitting down and trying to foster understanding between both sides so that your offender understands the impact that they had, whether they thought it was a big deal or not at the time. Sitting down and, engaging with empathy is a very intentional process. Not everybody is ready to do that. Somebody who's in a defensive place is not ready to sit down and take in feedback like that. And there's no way to force somebody into it. You cannot say, Russell Brand, we're bringing some restorative justice. Russell Brand has to understand that model and what its goals are and come to the table and sit down and take in the harm that he has caused and be very transparent about what the actions have been, what the harm has been, et cetera, with the goal of both offering some restorative actions to the people harmed and changing the behavior completely so that it is no longer having that impact on people. Not everybody is ready for that. People who join the Creator Accountability Network are. So they've come in advance and said, I care about the impact that I'm having on my community. And if I have harmed someone, even if I didn't know it or didn't mean it, that doesn't matter to me. I want to hear about it. I want the feedback. I want to change the behavior. I want to know, and I want to help the person who feels harmed feel like they are cared about, understood, wanted here in this community, and that we're going to operate within the moral boundaries, the values of our community.
And can you give one or two examples of what a restorative act would be in a situation?
Every situation is different. I'll say that first. So every person who comes with harm has different needs or different wants. For some people, it's enough just to know that the content creator or the person who caused the harm understands the harm that was caused and acknowledges it. For a lot of people, that is the primary thing that is healing for them, is having their experience and impact understood and validated. So that can be one, just a statement of understanding. Oftentimes, that's the beginning of an apology also, a statement of remorse or regret, a statement of, here's how, I intend to change my behavior for the future. So those are conversational, small, private. But, if your harm was large, let's say on a platform, you shared some harmful misinformation, let's say. It has spread to tens of thousands of people. The restorative action for that is quite different. You need to restore to those same people. So you need to share perhaps corrective information, education that you've learned on how to recognize good sources, understanding of where that misinformation came from, and an apology to that community, helping your community understand the impact or harm of that misinformation. So depending on the action that caused the harm, your restorative actions should match and meet the needs that were caused by the harm. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah, totally. Let's see. I know, though, that your work has expanded beyond just working with content creators, and that you also are looking to do even more this year. So could you talk a little bit about what you do outside of just like this world of content creation and what you're sort of looking to do more of in the future?
Yeah. So although we came from content creator communities, it very quickly became apparent that we can use the same model to help most communities that have any sort of meetings in any spaces. So we are credentialing organizations now. And there's a difference in how we're being received from content creators versus community organizers. So community organizers, if you think about it, they might be, if you guys know Sunday Assembly or Triangle Free Thought.
Oh, I don't know Triangle Free Thought, but Sunday Assembly I've heard of.
A lot of conventions, live events, kind of places. Oasis. What's their name? I totally forgot it. I'm so sorry. I did not come prepared with a list of people. But there's a lot of...
Shame on you.
I'm so sorry. I'm a bad secular community member. There's a lot of great communities out there that try to host gatherings. They try to get together maybe once a month, bring in a speaker, do some singing, like foster connection, foster communities. And anytime you have a community, you have the exact same community dynamic issues that everywhere else has. So, you've got conventions that are happening. American Atheists runs a convention. Right. There's NanoCon. There's, Recovering from Religion has been talking to us a bit. There's
Did
a lot of... Did
you do BajaCon?
I haven't done BajaCon.
Okay.
I'm actually an introvert who didn't go to a lot of these things.
I hear you on that. It took a lot for us to go to the
American Atheist
Convention. Yeah.
What was that, 2 years ago? 2 years ago?
Who knows? What is time?
What is time? That's so good. I was very shy, so I didn't go to a lot of things until, more recently, where it was like very necessary that I do so. But any community that exists has the same stories. They're just different people taking the places within those stories. Everybody's got stories of drama that unfolded. And whether it was, we had some bad actors who were being predatory, or there was a misunderstanding that blew up and people took sides and it got ugly, the communities really hurt from them. People don't have a lot of bandwidth for stress and drama, and a lot of people shy away from it. They step away. So we're working with community leaders in 2026 as well as content creators. And oftentimes that means we are credentialing board members, executive directors, senior staff, and then giving those people those trainings on, again, like ethical content creation. If you have a platform, if you are bringing people together and you're bringing in speakers, you have a platform. That is content creation. How do we do that ethically? How do we make ethical choices in, those kinds of spaces? Who do we need to be mindful of when we're platforming people? Harassment and abuse prevention is so relevant to somebody who is running a community, because they are in the hot seat of having to manage a code of conduct, boundaries for their communities. And that's hard to do. And oftentimes they're not trained to do it. So we give trainings on that front, both to offer kind of a neutral third party to hold them accountable. So if somebody at the top, someone in your leadership is doing something inappropriate or crossing boundaries in some way, we can help hold them accountable. But we can also give them some guidance on how to hold their own members accountable for within their space. All the issues that CAN is dealing with and addressing, they also have to address. They have to be sort of the accountability network for their community, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Yeah.
So partnering with us gives them also support on that front. We do a lot of ethical, what's the word I'm thinking of? Consulting. A lot of ethical consulting. Somebody just came to me with this issue. What do we do? How do we have this conversation? How do we appropriately make sure that we have investigated everything? how do we balance the needs of these people? We're helping them do that within their communities. So it's big. It's been received very positively. People who run communities understand the value of CAN and are so excited. They're so positive. They're like, you're so needed. We're so excited to work with you. They can't wait. So that's been a little different from content creation, where it's a little scarier. It's scary to stand up on your platform and tell your 100,000 listeners, like, hi, if you think I've done something wrong, please come report it, and then we'll deal with it. Like, that's hard to do. That's scary.
Yeah. I mean, I think, like, we can't even take credit because we have a very small listening audience. And so it's like when you're still in a bubble of people who you feel pretty certain are like there because, it's just, I've seen, wider communities, it gets so much more complex, right? So we were able to say yes at a time when it was frankly easier.
Yes, it is easier when you're a smaller creator because you're like, I don't do anything wrong. This is going to be easy.
Well, I don't know about that, but I think like, it's, I think the wider your audience, the more you have people joining for like a whole host of reasons, right? And so you're just going to get a broader variety of reactions. So, I mean, I'm just thinking your work with orgs, there's a speaker series close to us, and they recently invited somebody from a very right-wing religious group that has pushed for a lot of bad legislation in the state to come and speak. And they got a huge amount of pushback. And I was like, should I be one of the people who calls and complains? And it was such like an interesting thing because I was like, well, I didn't, because what the group is saying is that like it's a forum for different ideas and we should know how these people are thinking. And I was like, I don't know that group well enough to know if they're going to push back on those people when they're there or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like there are just so many hard ethical decisions. And to the point where I was like, I don't even know if I should complain. Like, I hate this group. I don't want them to be active. I don't want them success in anything they do. But like...
It was the Boy Scouts of America, by the way.
It was not. It was not. You're so absurd. But I can, it's, yeah. And building community is so hard. So it's great people have really seen the what you bring. I mean, I can, especially as like small orgs, just to have that backup and support.
Yeah, and CAN is an organization that loves nuance. We love to help people navigate the gray between the black and the white. So the organization that you just mentioned, who we know nothing about, every community has to kind of decide for themselves, what are our values? What are we here for? What's our goal? What's our purpose? Their purpose, it sounds like, might be to bring in people from wildly different sides of a political spectrum or an issue to talk about their stuff. So you might get some people who are terribly harmful up there talking about their belief systems or their actions that they've taken or whatever else it is. And whereas that might be horribly inappropriate in some communities, this community might say, this is literally what we're here for. And so there's a very important conversation happening amongst that community. Who do we want to platform? Who do we want to hear from? What are the impacts of platforming these people? And CAN is not here to shut down that conversation. We're here to help the people at the top receive the feedback and navigate it without the defensive reactions that come with it and some of the schisming that happens afterwards.
Yeah. I know you spoke about content creators being a little bit more cautious or worried about working with you. And without giving specifics or calling anybody out, I didn't know if there were any questions that you have to answer a lot that people are specifically worried about, just if anybody's listening who's thinking about doing it and might have concerns.
Yeah. No, I don't need to call anybody out because these are very natural questions to have that every content creator should be asking. it's easy to think, oh, am I signing up for someone who's going to censor me? Am I suddenly going to be given a list of words that I can't use or things that I can't say, people I can't work with? Like, those are natural questions to have. If you're in content creation, freedom is so important. And frankly, the freedom to make mistakes is very important to have. You just don't really have an opportunity to grow if you are too scared to make mistakes that you don't push yourself a little bit. Especially a lot of content creators are comedians, or they're in transgressive spaces. They're talking about issues that are still, the narrative around those is still developing. They might be trying to share information from a marginalized community that has multiple points of view within that community. Whatever it happens to be, one of CAN's primary values is liberty amongst our content creators, because we recognize you cannot really functionally be in those spaces if you are being muzzled in some strange ways. So the way that we do it, the reason we even monitor content at all or have a place to report content, we call it the Alex Jones problem. Essentially, if you had a content creator who did nothing wrong personally, they didn't harass or abuse anybody, all of their treatment of people is ethical, but their content is still horribly harmful, we can't credential that. We can't say, oh, this is ethical, you get our stamp of approval. We have to have red lines. We have to say, here are the boundaries. Here are the standards. If you want to belong to CAN, you have to operate within these boundaries. And what we decided is your content can't, perpetuate or promote harassment or abuse. I think that's fairly obvious. It cannot perpetuate or promote discrimination against any of the protected groups that the EEOC has designated. So, I don't have them all memorized, but, sex, gender, religion, race, etc. And you can't perpetuate or promote disinformation. So we all say things that are wrong sometimes, but we don't want to say things that are wrong, right? We don't want to share misinformation. If we learn that it's misinformation or disinformation, we would like to hear about it so we can correct it and then be right.
For the most part. At
right?
least for anybody you'd want to work with.
I mean, that's why we credential people who want to, not share disinformation. This is how we get to set our standards, our boundaries, so that we're not, credentialing anti-vaxxer content, let's say, anti-science kind of stuff. That's where we draw our boundaries. So people who want to be credentialed and use our system are also committed to those values. And we can stand behind the work that they do, even if it is transgressive, even if it sometimes offends people. And did that answer your question, by the way? I tend to talk so much that I kind of end up in a different place. You were asking, what do content creators commonly, what are they afraid of?
Yeah.
So that's one thing. Am I going to be essentially watched all the time and have all my mistakes, rubbed in my face? And no, we don't monitor anyone's content. It is a community reporting system. If your community says, whoa, that content was way off base, they can come let us know. We'll sit down and talk with you and help you navigate it. The other things that people are worried about are, if somebody thinks that I have done something wrong, is this going to come back to bite me, basically? Am I going to suffer some kind of huge blow to my reputation? So I'll just say, CAN does not make any statements whatsoever on any of the work that we do. We are not going to go on our platform and say, so-and-so didn't respond appropriately to blah, blah, blah. So that's a fear people have. And then I think the last fear I hear the most is, what about false reporting? Especially if you've got a giant audience, you've got enemies, you've got people who hate you. What if they come and tell you I did something that I just didn't do? To which I say, we have a team of professional investigators who will sit down and take literally all the sides, including our content creators, and any physical evidence that there is, things like that. And the worst thing that's going to happen is that we're going to sit down and have a conversation about it afterwards. So the stakes are so low for someone to come and lie. It's not a mechanism they can use to bring you down. It's not a mechanism that they can use to come and cause you harm. Okay. It's a chance for you to get to like clear the air and give us all the history of this person. Yeah, here's the 20 emails that person sent me before they made this report, wherein they like told me, that they were going to burn my house to the ground. And so it's a place where you can get that out. That's not, again, a Facebook group or a Discord server or wherever else these kinds of things tend to blow up.
And then on the other side, I'm wondering if you've heard any feedback from anybody who has needed to report about fears they might have. Like, I don't know if people are worried that first conversation when they call you guys is going to be scary.
Yeah.
Or, just like if there's anything that you can let people know. Or I can even imagine, like, should I even report this? Is it no big deal? Like, I feel like people who are thoughtful might be double thinking if they're overreacting or those kind of things.
We get reports like that all the time. We try to make it clear on our website that if you think something unethical has happened, go ahead and report it. Like, again, because the consequences are not harmful or severe, because it's not going to result in harm to the person, it's going to result in a conversation. Maybe they just need to know that they made you feel uncomfortable. What we're trying to do is lower the barrier to reporting so that, everybody, especially like even victims of really harmful things, has a tendency to talk themselves out of it, downplay it, minimize their own experience.
Mm-hmm.
That is one of the reasons that we have credentialed victim advocates answering our hotline. They're trained to have those conversations, and all they're going to do is listen and help you process and empower you to make your own decisions. And it's validating. It's validating to get to sit and talk about something. And our system is something where there's no, bar or threshold to reporting. It's not like, oh, it has to be this harmful. It has to be X, Y, and Z harmful for you to make a report. If you are just giving feedback like, that wasn't great, it didn't make me feel great, I was a little uncomfortable, you can give that feedback and we will help that person understand whether it's big or small. We can say like, this person was very clear that, it wasn't a huge thing, but it did make them uncomfortable, and they were brave enough and kind enough to share that so that that person can be aware of it and kind of change the behavior for the future. So we've gotten plenty of people who are nervous or unsure. Is this a big enough deal? I don't really know, but maybe this person would like this feedback. That's a perfectly acceptable use of our system.
That's amazing to hear, because that would definitely be me. I don't know, but like,
I do want to make sure. Yeah, I want to make sure I say one other thing though, because one other fear for reporting something like this is, will the person know that I reported them?
Ooh, yes.
That's a big fear, and I want to be very transparent. In a system like this, you can't really anonymously report, because we are going to sit down and talk with our credentialed creator, and they're probably going to know, who was on the other side of that exchange.
Mm-hmm.
So chances are very good that they will know, but our job is to sit down and have a conversation so that they understand why it was reported,
right?
And that they deal with it appropriately. I will also say every credentialed creator in our system has signed an agreement to not retaliate against anyone for making a report.
Yeah.
That is not to say that they can't respond to, any public allegations that get made, or that they can't, let's say it becomes a lawsuit or something, like they can still participate in the legal system. They can still do what they need to do, but they cannot retaliate against somebody just for making a report. Those are grounds for decredentialing. We don't want somebody on our rosters who's going to go after you because you told us your experience. So that is the protection that we are able to give and make it safer to come and let us know about something. And, it's brave to do to let us know that something happened. It helps hold that person accountable for future behavior. if you've reported, hey, this instance of behavior, and then they continue to do it with other people, it's documented. There's records of this has been an issue multiple times now in a way that just doesn't happen when things are not documented and recorded. So you can catch bad behavior much earlier that way.
That's amazing. And I sort of selfishly, I wonder if having worked with creators, do you, because just like based on the people who are going to get credentialed, I think we're a group of people who don't want to do harm, you know? So I didn't know if there's an area that you like more frequently see blind spots where people who are trying not to do harm may be doing harm without realizing.
Yeah. In live spaces where you're in person, a lot of times it accompanies substance use. So when you are drinking together, your inhibitions are lowered and you're making friends and you're making connections, and people will misstep a lot more and they're a lot less aware of the impact of their behaviors. So part of our training does help people be aware of power dynamics and how alcohol or how substance use can cause blind spots or interfere. Because content creators are still part of the community. They still want to make friends and they still want to be able to be happy and hang out with everybody. And a lot of people form relationships within those communities. So it's important to know, like, CAN is not telling you can't form relationships with your community. We're here to help you do it ethically and be aware of where you need to be more careful and take more caution and take more care to keep people safe. Other blind spots. Maybe I'll have to come back to that one. Nothing else jumps to mind. It's always substance abuse, I feel like, that causes the most profound missteps and harms.
Yeah. And I mean, interpersonally, but, even like before we started recording, like I can't tell you how many times after Pops and I have recorded, I cut a whole, I'm like, I can't believe I said that. And I just like cut a section out. I'm like, I don't think that was a good take. It's got to go.
I'm so glad you said that.
And
you're
like,
right.
You can't do that in live. I'm like, even beyond like interacting with somebody one-on-one, like live presentations or, just when you're having conversations with like a group of people around a bar, like you can't take it back, which is probably why I'm an introvert and I find those situations so terrifying. But
people
it's just
step in
harder
it all the time and, live streams or in stuff that's not edited. And so, again, important to understand, like, all of our creators have to just acknowledge we're not perfect human beings. And CAN is not the organization that is only for perfect human beings. Every single person on there could put a foot in their mouth horribly. And maybe they know it and they correct it in the moment. And maybe they miss it entirely and somebody points it out to them later and they go, crap. And then they have to come back later and be like, hey guys, I put my foot in my mouth. I said this thing and I want to make sure that you know that is not a thing that should be said.
Totally.
And, something important to know about restorative justice, it does not mean that everybody has to forgive you. It doesn't at all. Like, you are responsible for your actions. You can step up and take accountability and apologize. I won't do this again. I'm learning. Nobody has to forgive you. People in the audience can still choose not to listen to you. They might say, this person doesn't have the right perspective for me. This person doesn't know what I like my content creators to know. That's okay. Like, our audiences kind of self-select for who likes your personality, who likes your content, who likes your perspective. But that doesn't mean we don't want to try to be better.
Yeah. We just had an episode about forgiveness. It's such an interesting concept. Pivoting a little bit, we were talking before about how this isn't the most common model that you see out there. And I think, as a parent, I feel like there are parts of this that we definitely, I really believe in like parents apologizing to their kids and acknowledging when they did things wrong. But I'm wondering, like having worked in this for quite a while now, are there aspects of this that you think apply to parenting or that you think, particularly as our kids get more into their sort of preteen, teenage years, I'm like, conversations get so much harder. And then also maybe things that we should be trying to teach young people since the world doesn't really, operate or have many examples of these models.
Yeah. So let me give some background here. So I'm a parent. I have 3 children. My oldest is 14. My middle child is 11, and my youngest is 8 years old. I'm also a teacher and have been for 20 years.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I'm
Amazing.
a music teacher. I teach in my local public school. I teach around 600 students in this school district because of the way that our schools are set up. We travel to a new school each day. So 600 students and my kids. And for about 10 years of my career, I worked at a Montessori school that had a infant center, a preschool, and then a kindergarten through 8th grade. And I did the music program for the kindergarten through 8th grade. But you get to see so much of humanity when you do these jobs.
Yeah.
Being a teacher made me a better parent. Being a parent made me a better teacher. And working with kids from all ages for such a long period of time gave me a huge understanding of the whole person. So when you are a parent to these whole people and you are raising them from seedlings all the way up till hopefully adulthood, you get to go through so many fun stages. And their needs change so dramatically, and you're just trying to adapt to them every single day. So coming back to the concept of restorative justice, viewing your family as a community in which you have values and you have boundaries and you're trying to help your kids understand how to operate within those values. How do they look when we are interacting with our siblings? How do they look when we're interacting with our peers, with other adults? When nobody is watching, those conversations can be very restorative justice minded. But our kids are not always ready because they don't have the physical brain matter or the developmental appropriateness. They're just not ready to really live all that stuff all at once.
Yeah.
So keeping it age appropriate and modeling is the way we teach our kids. So how am I going to model it to my kids? Like you just said, apologizing when you are wrong, taking restorative actions yourself for your kid. When you notice that your kid is hurt by, whether it was reasonable or not for them to be hurt, they're hurt. Addressing it, caring that harm was caused, whether it was reasonable or not. And sure, sometimes the, consequence has to happen first and then explanation, whatever process you have to go through, because every kid is different, showing that you are going to sit down and address harm caused in a reasonable fashion teaches them.
I'm going to end with I think the trickiest, the most intense question I've ever asked anybody in an interview, which I don't have an answer for, but I'm just throwing it out there. So when I was thinking about all of this, we've talked a lot about because obviously we're not religious, but how we would feel if our kids are religious. And I think what Pops and I have come down to so many times is just we don't care about the specifics as long as what they believe is making them more moral, kinder people, right? And I think the only thing that I get scared of are belief systems where I feel and I've seen it happen with people I know where I feel it makes them less kind, less ethical people. So I guess, thinking about this model and talking with our kids, have you learned anything or have any thoughts about how to deal with the situation where the right ethical or moral, where the two people aren't on the same page with what the right ethical or moral kind of thing is. Does that make sense? Because when you're coming at it to like have a conversation, there's obviously a greater level of ease if everybody's sort of on the same page with what's right and where things have gone wrong. But when people come at it with like on slightly different pages, do you have any advice for like, not how to solve it, but like how to make those conversations more manageable?
So like talking with kids about what you perceive to be more harmful belief structures and what they lead to or where they come from.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I'm trying to think of an example. Like, you know, right now it's like real, you know, it's not easy, but like when we're talking with our kids, I feel like they're still pretty much on the same moral page that we are, right? So if we're like, look, this, you know, the way I see this, like, this is hurting this disadvantaged group in this way, and I have a real problem with that. And they're like, oh yeah, that sucks. I see where you're coming from, right? But let's say we don't monitor their YouTube use as carefully as we probably should. Maybe they've heard somebody who's like talking a lot about how, you know, one group of people is bad or like something else, and they're kind of coming at it and they're starting to come at conversations from like a different perspective.
Right.
I think that's where it can get to be really complex because you're not even like necessarily coming at things from like an agreed perspective.
Sure.
And so I'm not asking you to solve that, but I just don't know.
Solve it now.
But like, have there been any tools that you've learned to like help when people are not coming at it from like a pre-agreed upon perspective?
Yes, I have so many thoughts on this. Let's just record a whole other segment for this.
Maybe we will. We'll come back and in another year do a whole segment. But if you know, any little tidbits that you think might help.
So kids, depending on their age, don't always have a perfect like theory of other minds where they understand that somebody else had a different upbringing and their families had different values and they learned different things and they became a different person with different belief structures. Starting with what they really know is for me, it's starting with their peers. They can't understand other adults and the complexities of the world, but they can understand the people that they know very well. So talking about other kids in your school have a variety of religions, and they come from a variety of different families that believe different things, and it has resulted in kids who behave in different ways and act out those values in different ways. Those are things that they can see and understand that are still at their level, as opposed to an adult YouTuber who is making content. Stepping from there, so it's the teacher in me, I got a scaffold, right? Helping them understand that people have totally different sets of facts, sets of information, understanding about how the world works is important to understanding how they came to a different conclusion from our family. And talking with them about it really demystifies it so that they understand not everyone is telling their kids what we're telling our kids. Other families are telling them X, Y, and Z. People who do these kinds of things believe that these are the facts. That helps them understand how someone gets to that point. So if you're watching a YouTuber who is making, let's say, some anti-trans jokes, helping them understand that that person's using a different set of facts or understanding about the world. And we're not trying to hide that from you. We want to make sure that you understand this is what the other side believes, and here's why we think that's wrong. Here's where we think they went wrong. It's not that they are inherently just like a bad person, black and white. Like, they're very funny, right? And they say some really good things about this thing, and they say some good things about this thing. We think on this thing that they got it wrong. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Is that helpful?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think...
Because as they go through, like, they'll find more and more and more YouTubers. You can't possibly keep up with all of it.
No.
Understanding that different people have different sets of facts and perspectives, they'll understand that from more people. They'll apply it to more people. And they, you won't protect them from everything. They will catch a wrong idea and repeat it to you, and you'll go, "Where did you hear that?" And then you get to sit and have that conversation.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, especially as they're in their teenage years, they're on their own journey in a lot of ways. We're losing our place as their sole source of information. So helping them understand that each person that you're listening to probably came to their information slightly different. So check and see how did they get to their information? How did they get to their conclusion?
Do they even cite sources?
Do you even cite sources, bro?
Yeah. Do you even cite?
I have to say, as much as that's my fear, I can't wait until they're taking in so much information that they can start calling us out.
Mm-hmm.
That to me is then I'll be like, yes.
Yeah.
It's going to be about AI.
Agreed.
It's going to be about...
No, it's true. It's true. I think one of the hallmarks of good parenting is when your children start to outpace your ability to do the things that you've been, instilling in them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think part of that is media literacy. Part of that is reading bias and understanding context. And that's something that we've talked about with them. It's one of the reasons why we love watching Star Trek so much, is that it offers so many opportunities for philosophical conversations and talking about ethics. And there's something to be said for giving your kids the opportunity to impress you. Yeah. And this feels like one of those things where it's I was watching this YouTuber, and the joke was funny, but it was really hurtful. And I think in retrospect, I think it's kind of shitty. I don't mind if my kids stumble upon something horrible. What I mind is if my kids don't have the ability to process it, and to value it, and to evaluate it.
Yeah. I think in the current moment, and maybe it has never been any different, but most of the kids that I interact with are just looking for something funny. And if it's funny, they don't care about much else about it.
Yeah.
It's a good way to get
YouTube.
It's a good way to indoctrinate them. It's a good way to spread ideas and mind viruses a little bit. Is if it's funny, then they'll like it and they'll repeat it, and they're not thinking too carefully about it. So
if they hear something outrageous and they just think, oh, that's outrageous, and it sticks out in their heads, and then they start referencing it in conversation, then all of a sudden it becomes part of their belief structure.
Yeah.
Whether or not it's true.
Parenting is not easy.
No.
It's
just getting harder. It's just getting harder.
Yeah.
Remember when they were little?
Yeah.
Remember when we didn't have to worry about so much of this? Oh.
And their heads smell amazing, and now their heads smell like must and mushrooms.
Oh, speaking about parenting being hard, the other day, we realized that Jaeger had been out of shampoo for we don't know how long.
Yup.
Apparently, I don't think he told me. He claims he told me. And then just decided he never had to tell us again.
Once was enough, and you fail.
And so he's just not going to use shampoo until... So we're like, oh, okay. We should probably get you some shampoo, huh?
I have been there. They don't tell me that they're out of conditioner for weeks on end. They're just like, oh, well, just this is my life. But one time I purchased shampoo and conditioner, and the bottle caps have the pump, but these pumps lock if they're turned the wrong way.
Yep.
And my kids couldn't figure out how to use them, how to unlock them, and they didn't tell me. And it wasn't until I noticed, your hair is so disgusting. What's going on? And they're like, oh, I just haven't used any shampoo or conditioner since you bought that new bottle. And I'm like, that was so
Thanksgiving,
long ago.
2024.
It's weird. That is so... Okay, I'm glad we're not alone, because I was just what is happening?
Not alone.
Okay, you've we're close to time. The final thing I wanted to bring up, I know Can just went through like a big fundraise for the start of the year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how that went and also how people can continue to support you.
So we raised about close to $10,000.
Good job.
Yeah, wonderful. And thank you so much to everybody who donated. Surprisingly, nonprofits are expensive to run. So,
Yes.
although my background is being a music teacher and a community organizer, I do great with, people management. I didn't come into this going, I'm an amazing fundraiser. So that's a skill that I'm developing, and, things that I am learning are probably don't put your fundraiser in December. So learning things, we will do more. But if anybody wants to support the work that we do, we need people to connect to our work. If we're going to survive, if we're going to keep on going, if we're going to get the number of people that we need to support the amount of work that we are taking on, we need volunteers. So somebody who has extra time and spoons and cares about our mission, come volunteer with us. Especially if you are kind of like an empathetic person. I feel like with a lot of parents on the podcast, you might have people who care a lot and have that empathy component. We actually pay for people to become victim advocates. There's a national organization of victim advocates that you get credentialed with. You take a training for them. You maintain a credential, and we pay for that and have a cohort that goes through it and give you a team of advocates to practice with and to learn with. So for anybody for whom that seems interesting and like something you might want to break into, it's a very rewarding field of volunteer work. And you can do it with a lot of different programs and organizations. We're a good way to get your foot in the door. We're a great way to get started on that. So if you want to volunteer on that front, but if you have other skills and you just want to volunteer a few hours a month, come submit an application on our website. It's creatoraccountabilitynetwork.org, looking for volunteers. If you don't have time but you have money and you want to donate, $10 a month or more of like a large one-time donation, those things help tremendously because then we know how we're paying our bills each month. And then finally, like if you want to just help share the word, if you want to help spread the word, if you see something happening and you're like, oh, I actually know an organization that can help with that, share our name, help people get credentialed, help communities navigate their horrible, issues, tell your favorite content creator, hey, I know somebody who will take all your hate mail. That's kind of what we do. So yeah, any way that you can help us, because we are a network, so we have to network. So any way people can help us share the word, get funding, get volunteers, those things are all helpful.
Right on.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Sarah. This was
thank you.
Fantastic.
Thank you both so much.
Sure thing.
So I know that wasn't like as parenting focused as some of the interviews we've done, but I found it so helpful just as a way of like thinking about how I'm interacting with the world. Because I don't know, I just like we are in a time of intense conflict, and to pay attention to like how you are managing and thinking about conflict, I don't know. I just found it really helpful.
100%.
And I did want to give a little update because I mentioned the speaker series with the anti-LGBTQ group coming in that I didn't know how to handle.
Yes.
And that talk happened. And it was fascinating to see because like I read a lot of articles, and the big positive was I saw a lot of articles from an LGBTQIA publication in the area that I didn't know about. So now I'm following them.
Yeah.
But the long and the short of it was, one, it was an amazing opportunity to see support in our community, because while the talk happened, tons of people came to stand outside and they made like a line of rainbow umbrellas down the block. And people were there as a counterpoint. Some people threw fake blood on the building. That is also peaceful and not hurting anybody. So I think like one person wasn't arrested but was removed by police. And I sort of get both responses. I think it's like a nice spread of response from the community. And the responses to the actual talk were mixed. So it was the head of the place where the talk happened sort of leading the discussion. And apparently there was some pushback from him and some pushback from audience members, but probably not enough. And they did never bring up that the group is considered a hate group, which I believe the organization said they would bring up, and it wasn't brought up.
Oh, that's too bad. I would have raised my hand. My autistic brain, I would have been like, no. What do you think about this labeling that you've gotten? Discuss.
And I think the best critique was from that publication I was talking about that said the real issue was they should have brought in a different moderator because having the head of the club ask the questions.
True. You should have had somebody totally neutral.
Well,
who didn't
and also,
have like skin in the game,
who could push back more without that being seen as like the position of the organization.
Sure. Yeah, no, 100%.
So I think, I don't know if I should have protested. If I hadn't had to work, I definitely would have wanted to be there with the people in solidarity with the LGBTQI community. But yeah, it was just an interesting time to like think about a full response from the community. So that's the update on that. Anyway, this is run long anyway. We have to thank Jonathan Zalbin and First Frame Music for the podcast.
And that wraps up this episode of The Family Skeptical, where nothing is sacred except for our kids. You're blowing shit out. You're blowing it up.
I am.
Like a freaking bukkake video. Just all over the place. All right, let's get going.
Okay. Hang on. I just have to pull up.
You got your hair perm. You got your red dress on.
Okay. Hang on.
Scream in that second gear was such a turn on.
Ready?
Who taught you those new tricks? Damn, I shouldn't start that talk.
Are you ready?
But life is one big question when you're staring at the clock. Sorry, go.
Okay.
Answers always waiting at the liquor store.
You have more things to do than I do.
Go. What? Go.